morning. It's my hope that you had a great night. Welcome on board. And this is Morning Cafe with me, Linda Alela, right here on TV 47. Arise and shine. Let's take a look at what is here in terms of news and so much more. And it's always a pleasure doing this with you as we welcome you to be part and parcel of this very important conversation. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela TV 47K. Indeed, the Hustler Fund is here with us, and the flagship happening yesterday, the August of 9th, the election. That was the, that's technically what it is that got this ladies and gentlemen elected in as they campaigned, in the name of the Hustler Nation, in the name of, bringing that economic emancipation and transformation. And of course, when Kenyans went to, vote on the August of 9th, that was one of the driving factors as to what really got them electing this, president. And the question is just how friendly will it be in terms of making sure that there's that indeed emancipation for the people who are on the lowest of cadres. A very important conversation that we'll be having later on alongside the gentleman that will be joining me. But before it gets to that, we first of all take a look at the papers. We definitely take a look at what my team has prepared, and as well we be sampling what it is that you tell us as we continue with the broadcast. Also later on we'll be having a conversation as pertaining to the Meru Dam Marathon. That is also very, very important, and being a Thursday, we might as well hit the gym and just make sure that we all look good. It's a little bit cold out here, especially in Nairobi. And so, you do not know whether that move or those moves will help you to get the warmth. So make sure that you keep it right here up until 9:30 a.m. And let's kickstart by looking at the front pages of the paper, the Standard newspaper, the Daily Nation. As I have said, the Hustler Fund is here. Hustle game changer. And of course, do you suppose that indeed this will be a game changer? That is the biggest of question that many are asking. And a dream come true in sticking with his campaign promise. We have seen President William Ruto launching the Hustler Fund that will set borrowers access credit at all-time low interest rate of 8% a year. And the low-income earners will not only benefit from the loans, but as well save part of what they are borrowing. This is captured on page 6 and page 7 of the Standard newspaper. We'll be looking at this, just what would get you eligible to access the loan. When we're talking about 8% interest that will be charged on loans per year, what exactly does it mean? And also definitely every nitty-gritty detail that you'd love to know about how you access this loan. We'll be giving you updates of that as we continue. That is the biggest story, and we have about 2 stories that have been captured on the front page of the Standard newspaper. Alarming rates of the cases of HIV and AIDS infections, and there's a pledge to end HIV in children by 2030. It is World Day for HIV, and so as we commemorate this, as we speak of this, it is so much so in terms of how best we can be able to tame this menace. It's a special report captured on the Standard newspaper, and as well we'll speak to this matter as we continue with the broadcast. And indeed, this important day in this calendar of the World Health Organization is one that is commemorated every year on the first day of December. Relief for Sarah as DPP seeks to end Cohen murder case, as you can evidently see. That's a story captured on page 8. It's been a case that has been on for quite a while. And of course, we see the different adjustments that have been made as to taming this case. It's interesting to watch. And as captured on page 8, you will definitely get the details. What's important is that we hope that indeed justice then has been served. And the Daily Nation speaks of Ruto reads his Pickering CS's the Riot Act. Well, angered by what he said was a failure to adopt the collective responsibility doctrine, President William Ruto called the cabinet secretaries to order, fearing that their public clashes were exposing the nascent Kenya Kwanza administration to ridicule. A story captured on page 4. Perhaps this was long overdue, as many would want to argue. And we're set to see just how different then these cabinet secretaries will swing to action and, make adjustments as to the utterances. Azimio plots powerful opposition leader office. Well, the nation has seen a document proposing to give the holder of the office of the occupied by Azimio One Kenya, or Azimio la Umoja One Kenya boss, that is Raila Odinga, sweeping powers, that is including an annual address to Parliament, leeway to nominate persons to constitutional statutory commissions, as well as funding from the exchequer to ensure constant oversight of government. This is captured on page 5. It will be interesting, a conversation to hear, and we'll definitely weigh in on that with the gentleman that I have, or that will be joining me shortly. And Kenya records rise in new HIV infections as the World AIDS Day report 2022 to be released today indicates an increase in new HIV infections for the very first time in a decade. There has to be a problem. A story captured on page 2, and we definitely seek to understand what really informs this as to the report and what can be done for us to again get to levels that we had gotten to, as opposed to reversing the gains that we had made. Mr. Director, the People Daily, the front page of the People Daily. All right, shortly we have it. There you go, the People Daily on the screen. Okay, let's try and get my copy as well, so we are able to take us through. Anyway, Ruto Hustler Fund is not a free lunch. Definitely, that is the conversation that has been there as pertaining to what then should be expected of the Hustler Fund. And the Cholera 4 guilty as charged, says the team. A story captured on page 4. That is the front page of the People Daily. And the conversation of the Cholera 4 continues as we get to understand just what will be their fate, how beneficiaries will access the loans. That is as to the Hustler Fund. We'll definitely be having a conversation as pertaining to that. This also as the members of parliament resolved to throw out the rebel election quota. On the other side, Wetangula annuls regulations set by state agencies without a house nod. Those are the key stories. Also, as you can evidently see, there's so much that has been captured on the People Daily, and so we will be getting into details of this also, as you will realize that we have captured the same stories on, the stories that have been prepared by my team. And of course, members of parliament raise against time to vet officials. That is the PSs that, we had seen the courts halt this process. But then again, this time around, being given that nod, we'll definitely seek to see what the JLAC committee, or what the committee then will be presenting, not the JLAC. Of course, as the members of parliament, and the vetting processes would proceed, we seek to see who will be lucky enough and what names will be presented to the president for appointment. Away from it, allow us to briefly look at these stories. William Ruto launched the 50 billion shilling Hustler Fund, his flagship August 9 election campaign pledge that will be rolled out to more than 15 million Kenyans at a flat rate of 8% every year.
President William Ruto's much-awaited 50 billion shillings Hustler Fund became a reality on Wednesday when he launched the kitty set to benefit more than 15 million Kenyans, while enlisting 8 million others excluded from the credit market due to blacklisting by credit reference bureaus.
Even if in the past you have not been good at credit and you have been locked out, and 8 million of Kenyans have been locked out from the credit system, the government of Kenya, the Hustler Fund, is giving you a second chance to begin again. That is why we said in the Hustler Fund, nobody will be excluded. There will be no exclusions. Everybody will be given a chance. And I want to ask, those of you who will be given a second chance, please do not abuse that second chance. Use it well. It will work for you. It will work for your future. It will work for your business. It will work for your family.
10 million Kenyans, as you stated here, Your Excellency, have been locked out because of punitive and predatory lending. Many Kenyans, given an opportunity, are hardworking, and given a chance, they can move from bottom to the highest level.
The Hustler Fund capped at a starting figure of 50,000 shillings, with the lowest amount standing at 500 shillings. So the president and his deputy defend Kenya Kwanza's pet project.
Hawa mahustlers ya William Ruto hawana logbook, hawana title, ni simu peke yake na yeye mwenyewe ndio waweze kusaidika. So we are asking, please, let all critics and theorists and analysts give the hustler nation a break.
The loan will be accessible via mobile phone USSD code *254#, repayable in 14 days, and will attract an interest rate of 8%. 5% of the loan amount will be deducted to be deposited in a savings scheme divided into long-term and short-term savings.
We have made interest 500 times lower than the average interest rate in the market. And that interest is going to serve only two purposes: to make sure that we can run the fund and to make sure that the fund is available and is growing tomorrow to benefit the next person.
With no security required and easily accessible to anyone over 18 years, and with an ID to access the loan, defaulting on the loan after the lapse of the 14 days will affect the customer's credit rating. If a customer does not pay on a further 15 days, the interest rate will rise to 9.5%. And if one fails to pay after 30 days, the borrower will lose the credit score and the Hustler Fund account frozen.
Hata 2,000, hata 3,000 inaweza kubadilisha maisha yao. Kuna mama mahali Kawangware anangoja tu her first bunch of bananas for her to start selling and for her to change her life. There is a young man somewhere who is just expecting 500 tu ili anunue viatu kamera hapo Gikomba na aanze kuuza. You have taught us that we must focus on these people.
Kenyans already trying to access the loan have lamented about the long delays in accessing the loan, an issue the president attributed to the high request being made. The launch of the Hustler Fund marks a key step in fulfilling President William Ruto's core campaign pledge to millions of hustlers. The hard part of putting it to work now begins. Apul Kamau, TV47, at the Green Park Terminus in Nairobi.
All right, in less than 100 days of being in office, President William Ruto has launched the 50 billion Hustler Kitty that is meant to boost small business owners. The fund, which will be accessed through mobile phones, will attract a 9.5% interest rate if defaulted after the 14 days threshold of paying. Flora Limuki with that.
This was the mood at the Green Park bus terminal in Nairobi before the launch of the Hustler Fund. President William Ruto interacting with small-scale traders who had come to showcase their products. And in a jovial manner, the head of state and the second in command enjoyed the freshly roasted maize from the small business owners who stand to benefit from the fund. The crowd was treated to a light moment as the leaders in attendance spent up to 100,000 shillings to promote snack sellers at the launch.
amesema atanunua hiyo shati na 50,000.
As Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua bought a Mutumba shirt from a vendor at a cost way higher than normal.
Waziri Moses Kuria amemnunulia moja na 60,000.
The president launched the Financial Inclusion Fund, dubbed the Hustler Fund, one of his major promises during campaigns. The fund is expected to help ordinary Kenyans and especially small business owners access credit easily, as well as save 5% of the money borrowed.
It's a little bit fair, but for the amount, I feel it's limiting. Yeah, 50,000 for some of the businesses, it will be limited.
Hustler Fund borrowers who will default on the loan will see their interest rates increase from 8% to 9.5%. If a customer will not have paid the loan within the required time, they will be given an extra 15 days before an increase of the interest rate.
80% of those Kenyans on CRB are on CRB because of 1,000 shillings.
The borrowers who default will also have their Hustler Fund accounts frozen. However, contrary to other digital lenders, defaulters will not be listed on CRB as they will have another chance of reborrowing. The launch of the long-awaited Hustler Fund is a big plus to the small and medium enterprises in the country. As for some business owners, as little as 1,000 shillings is enough to run their day-to-day business activities. Flora Limuki, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, a section of members of parliament allied to the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition have picked issues with the just launched Hustler Fund by President William Ruto, terming it a pyramid scheme meant to defraud Kenyans of their hard-earned money and further edge existing financial lenders or edge them out. Now, led by Embakasi East Member of Parliament Babu Owino, they questioned the interest rate imposed on the loan offered, as Mwege William details.
Asante sana.
The fulfilling of one of President William Ruto's campaign pledges has not been received well by some quarters, with some opposition leaders now faulting a number of issues touching on the ambitious project. A section of legislators allied to the Raila Odinga-led Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition questioning the interest rate imposed on the kitty.
Because when you say that Hustlers Fund will be for free, and now you cap it at an interest rate of 8%, and I did say that 8% of 50,000 is 54,000. 54,000 minus 50,000, you pay with an interest rate of 4,000 in 14 days. 4,000 Kenya shillings can do a lot to a mama mboga. Why are you taking this money from a mama mboga?
The section of MPs was also not in agreement with the terms and conditions of the loan, especially the repayment part.
In fact, the Hustler Fund is an enhancement of Fuliza. They want to outmarket or to edge out Safaricom and the banks that underwrite Safaricom from the business of Fuliza.
This fund is biased. The beneficiaries are selected. One of the questions we can ask today, you saw there was a skit going on there.
The team of MPs called for consolidation of the various funds given by the government into one and placed the loan limit to 100,000 shillings rather than the current 50,000 shillings offered by the fund.
To combine the Hustlers Fund together with this 6,000 Social Protection Fund, together with the money that was meant for the Kazi Mtaani, the youth who are not now proceeding with that job. There's money that was left that was supposed to be paid to them. Combine this money, then on a minimum, give every hustler a minimum of 100,000 Kenya shillings.
The legislators also raised concerns over the source of the fund and its legality, taking issues with the process used by President William Ruto's government to create the fund.
Any fund, the nature of which will incur exchequer money to the tune of what the Hustler Fund is now about to consume from the taxpayer, cannot be brought through the back door by way of regulations. Those regulations have quickly been channeled without sufficient public participation through the Committee of Delegated Legislation, sneaked into Parliament and voted, and the exchequer is going to incur 50 billion. We are very clear. We are not begrudging the...
President William Ruto launched the 50 billion shillings kitty Wednesday at Green Park Terminus in Nairobi. Mwege William, TV47.
All right, Gender and Public Service Cabinet Secretary Aisha Jumwa is a happy lady. Yet another charge, against her was withdrawn. That is on Wednesday. And as Collins Lusweti reports, there has been increased complaints over the manner in which the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution has been withdrawing cases against high-ranking government officials.
For the last 4 years, Aisha Jumwa has been known widely not to shy from controversy due to her constant appearance in the corridors of justice. Most serious of them, a murder and assault charge of Gumbao Jola in Ganda Ward, Kilifi County, where she's reported to have stormed a political meeting, leading to a fatal shooting and violence. But today, Aisha Jumwa could be off the hook after the Office of Director of Public Prosecution, through a virtual court session, recommended withdrawal of murder charge against her, with the CS now becoming a state witness.
We are glad to report that today, when we had a mention of that case before the High Court in Mombasa,
before Her Lady Justice Anne Ongijo, the DPP has in one resolve entered an nolle prosequi, which is an indication that the case, the murder charge, as against His Excellency the Cabinet Secretary Aisha Jumwa, has been terminated. So this essentially means that this is a good day for justice. It's a good day that where we get to celebrate the truth over popularity.
A month ago, after the nomination of Aisha Jumwa into cabinet, the Office of Director of Public Prosecution made headlines following yet another withdrawal of Kenya shillings 19 million CDF graft charge against the CS, apparently for lack of evidence, with her legal team insisting that the charges were politically motivated.
Aisha Jumwa, being the area member of parliament, walked into a hostile environment. Bullets were being shot up. Violence was there, stones were there. Aisha Jumwa, all her life, has never owned a gun. She has never held a gun, whichever format of a gun. Out of the commotion that was there, somebody was shot dead.
The scene that we are now readily accepting justice as opposed to those public stands where we had public officers being charged just for the sake of it.
The withdrawal of cases facing high-ranking officials has attracted sharp criticism, with the Law Society of Kenya raising concerns. The president of the society, Eric Theuri, maintains that Kenyans deserve an explanation on why cases have been withdrawn in high numbers. The Kenya Human Rights Commission has also recently expressed shock over a sudden surge of withdrawal of cases. Collins Lusweti, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, Police Sergeant Rashid Ahmed Hassan, who was accused of publicly killing 2 persons in Eastleigh, has moved to court seeking to have the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nordin Haji, review murder charges preferred against him. But Amnesty International says it is premature to stop the case. And as Paul Kirobi reports, IPOA issued out summons against him to attend to court and take plea on the 8th of December.
The court will on the 8th of December decide the fate of Sergeant Ahmed Rashid, viewed by some as the crime buster, but a ruthless killer by others. This is after the Independent Police Oversight Authority, IPOA, issued summons against him to attend court and take plea for the alleged offense of murder of Jamal Mohammed and Mohammed Dair Keri. In an application filed at the court, Rashid wants the ODPP to review the decision to charge him for the murder of the two, but Amnesty International insists the decision is premature and that the move aims at interfering with the ruling.
And therefore it is premature, and perhaps I could argue that the counsels for Corporal Rashid perhaps have panicked, because that chance was coming before the High Court on December the 8th. They have filed an application essentially to stop the process that would allow for the determination of who was guilty for the killing of those 2 men and whether Corporal Rashid is in fact innocent of the charges that are against him.
Through lawyer Dunstan Omari, Rashid argues that IPOA is not acting in good faith and has a bad motive in its decision, as he has never been summoned to give his account on the allegations.
He has never been called by IPOA. The Criminal Procedure Court, where my good brother Mr. Umbeta will address it, demands that he should record a statement. He has never recorded a statement to date. 5th, has any of the eyewitnesses recorded a statement? None of those people who were present during that heinous act has recorded a statement.
Rashid claims that the armed robbers, who were about 7 in numbers, shot at the police and members of the public, and in a bid to protect lives, one robber who was carrying a homemade gun was gunned down in a heavy exchange of gunfire. However, Amnesty International says opening the door for unlawful police action threatens to open doors to enforced disappearances.
That opening the door for unlawful police action opens the door also for enforced disappearances, unlawful renditions, and violence, not least the kind that we saw in 2014 with Operation Sanitization.
The case stretches back to the year 2017 on the 31st of March at a mall plaza within Eastleigh area, when the incident is alleged to have been committed. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, the vetting of those nominated by President William Ruto to the position of principal secretaries resumed Wednesday, with other 20 PSs or PS nominees appearing before different or departmental committees of the National Assembly. PS nominee on housing and urban development, Charles Hinga, and one of the few retained from the previous cabinet, was put to task of offshore account compliance and his merit, telling the committee he was retained on merit by the President. Elizabeth Matuko details.
Its concentration shall be the fruit, the whole fruit, nothing but the fruit. So help me God.
In a bid to complete the vetting process of principal secretaries following a court ruling, various PS nominees appeared before various committees of the National Assembly. PS nominee for housing and urban development, Charles Hinga, who is also one of the PSs retained from the previous regime, took the hot seat before the departmental committee on housing, with members of the committee putting him to task on how the Ruto administration would actualize the ambitious pledge to deliver affordable units every year given the prevailing economic situation in the country.
We don't have an absorption problem. Let me give you an example. Again, I keep on using Park Road because that's one that is completed and occupied. In Park Road, as I said, we had 1,370 units. I have received deposit from 33,000 Kenyans. So we are far away from getting to a place where now we are producing more than the market. The market is demanding for more of the houses. So at the moment, we don't see that as a challenge.
Energy PS nominee Alex Wachira, while appearing before the Energy Committee, committed to accelerating the evacuation of Olkaria Power in a bid to expeditiously retire thermal plants if his nomination is approved.
Projects that were implemented by REREC 3 years down the line, when you ask REREC, they tell you they finished their work. They are waiting for Kenya Power to do their part to commission. 3 years down the line. Others take 6 months. That is not little either. So there are those that are actually permanently stayed uncommissioned. So then you wonder what is the purpose of putting up infrastructure, and then the infrastructure is idle. And
in terms of how they have demarcated their regions, I'm well versed. Once we put the national task force, we now go down to the regional areas. We check per region what are the issues and which are the projects. We write and know what is the issue, and we address that issue such that we do not have lines that have constructed. Kenyans are waiting for power and the power has not come.
However, committee members wanted solutions to the high cost of energy and dealing firmly with cartels that are milking the government coffers.
Big complaints on Kenya Power on payment, on the pricing. If you see what you pay for the coupon, if you pay 100 shillings, what you get from that coupon is about probably the rest of, you'll only be paying 40 shillings, the rest of 60 shillings is taxes. How do we improve on the pricing of the tokens that Kenyan buys?
So now we have to agree on the scope of work by REREC, and that scope must change. And if this committee approves you, then you must start with the thinking that the scope of work by REREC must extend to include metering.
REREC engineers have come from Kenya Power. So in terms of trading, in terms of standardization of materials and construction, like, they are the same people. So it is very easy if they are put together for them to work harmoniously. They have gone to the same engineering school. So we should be able to have synergy within these two departments in terms of power line construction.
State Department for Tourism nominee John Olulta and Sylvia Museya Kihoro of Department of Wildlife all appeared before the Departmental Committee on Tourism and Wildlife.
Are you going to ensure Kenyans that with all subsidies, the price of petroleum will be stabilized? because as far as Kenyans are concerned outside there, they believe the government is not helping them. And the whole issues are around subsidies. So how are you going to deal with this?
Which strategies are you likely to employ to manage the cost of petroleum and to make the product affordable to Kenyan citizens?
Also get in touch with the sagas to show their strength. So my leadership and experience I'm going to inject into the department will be able to do the service delivery. So I want to be a servant leadership.
Justice Ndumanderi ruled that the petitions by the Law Society of Kenya, activist Frederick Bikeri and Dr. Magari Gikenyi were filed prematurely, and the court can only be approached when the National Assembly concludes the vetting process. Elizabeth Mutuku, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for that comprehensive report that equally forms the basis of our conversation this morning. Away from it, after the High Court allowed the National Assembly to continue with the vetting of 51 principal secretary nominees, various departmental committees proceeded with their vetting Wednesday. Appearing before the National Assembly Committee on ICT, PS nominee Edward Kisiang'ani committed to advocate for the removal of data, and that is data bundles expiry. Mike Kagungu with the details.
Where we are able to...
Various parliamentary committees continued with the vetting process of nominated principal secretaries, and whose reports are to be presented before the National Assembly after the exercise. The process proceeded after the court struck out 3 petitions challenging President William Ruto's nominees Monday. Appearing before the National Assembly Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation, Broadcasting and Telecommunications, chaired by Dagoretti South legislator John Kierie, PS nominee Edward Kisiang'ani committed to advocate for the removal of data bundle expiry. Kisiang'ani said there must be a reasonable period within which the bundles expire, saying that Parliament must give directions and legislation on the issues.
But when you buy a lot of bundles in one day and you are told they have expired the following day, it's a waste. So even if we were to give a leeway there must be a reasonable time within which you can do the bundles, to use the bundles at least for 2, 3, 4 days so that you can do the business.
Kisiang'ani was responding to Teto MP Geoffrey Wandeto's remarks, who said that the South African Parliament passed laws to remove short-term expiry of data bundles. On matters splitting big telcos, Teto MP Geoffrey Wandeto observed that one of the telcos moves huge amounts of money through its mobile money transfer, poking holes on over-reliance on a single operator for cash transfer. In response, Kisiang'ani said having one telco dominate money transfer service may lead to loss of a lot of money in case of a major economic turbulence.
Overall, I would like us to remember our communication, to support the bottom-up thinking and His Excellency, so to promote his agenda. Communication is very important. So we need reforms. I've suggested reforms on telecom. Telecom Kenya, and I've said Telecom Kenya, government has already returned its shares, rebought its own shares from Telecom France. How much money did we get out of that deal? Parliament is saying they were not consulted.
National Assembly Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation, Broadcasting and Telecommunication also vetted Engineer John Kipchumba Tanui of the State Department for ICT and the Digital Economy.
It is checking the suitability of a nominee to hold a position. And that is the business that we were undertaking today. And we were able to delve into very many issues, including sector-specific matters, but also matters that affect Kenyans.
It went really well. We needed to get to know the candidates a bit better because, these positions are of importance to the nation. And we were able to gauge them, and we will be able to make our report very soon. So
we are very, very keen to retreat and basically put our minds together in terms of our observation and give our recommendation to Parliament.
The committee is expected to file a report before the Parliament's plenary as the nominees await their fate. Mike Kagungu, TV 47, Nairobi.
Would you be willing to take an oath?
Thank you, Mike, for that. Now, Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza has finally breathed a sigh of relief after a court in Meru ruled and dismissed the 69 MCA bid to oust her as the Meru County Governor. In her judgment, Magistrate Wamae Cholera said that the county government did not follow due process to initiate the bid, that is to unseat the Meru Governor. In their response, the member of county assemblies have, vowed not to give up, but to continue pushing for Mwangaza's removal as Meru Governor. Meanwhile, the county head, that is, marked her celebration with a mention of the word sorry 70 times to present an apology to the 69 members of the Meru County Assembly and the County Assembly Speaker. Mwangaza has moved to court seeking an order to bar the ward representatives from debating her impeachment motion.
Still stands, and this house still believes that our county is in wrong hands and it must be rescued immediately, Mr. Speaker.
Then we agreed that it is very important for us to abide by the court ruling, which we did, and we said that since the court did not say you cannot impeach the governor anytime, so the assembly is at liberty even bring another impeachment motion tomorrow or next week.
We are very much ready to discharge our duties, and that is why we are saying the government should stop cheating and inciting the community, our people, against the democratically elected members.
The mantra from the very word go, it is that Meru must be free from all forms of servitude, all forms of slavery, thus making Meru happy. Na kama hatutashikana mikono na viongozi wengine, tumalize umaskini, tumalize all forms of slavery, Meru will not be happy. Kwa hivyo nakaribisha viongozi wote na kusema kwa unyenyekevu kama gavana wenu, hata kama leo kesi kwa lugha ya kawaida nimeshinda kesi, na nyenyekea na kusema njoni tusemesane, tuongee pamoja, tushikane mikono, tupeleke kaunti yetu mbele.
And to a rather unfortunate report, just a day after the government confirmed that it will conduct a cholera vaccination program in the worst hit counties, the country is still reporting new cholera cases, with 25 deaths reported since the outbreak. And as Elizabeth Atieno now reports, the national government, in partnership with all the 47 county governments, have developed infection prevention control measures, including diagnostics to curb the disease.
1,094 people from 10 counties in the country are currently receiving treatment in various health facilities after contracting cholera. So serious is the situation that 25 people have lost their lives in a span of less than 2 months following the outbreak. The government, through the Ministry of Health's Acting Director General Dr. Patrick Amoth, has now raised concerns on the spreads, which comes just a day after the government said that it will commence a cholera vaccination program targeting 12 million Kenyans in counties most affected by the outbreak.
We remember the index case of cholera came out from Kiambu County following a wedding. But now out of that we have had sporadic cases which are not clustered together.
Since the first 2 cases were announced on Tuesday, the 18th of this month in Limuru, Kiambu County, over 10 counties have now made it to the red list in terms of high infections, with the counties of Nairobi, Machakos and Garissa being at a higher risk.
So far as at 26th, we had 10 counties involved. The 3 counties with the highest burden of the disease is Nairobi County, where all the 17 sub-counties have been affected. Garissa sub-county and Machakos County.
It has now emerged that 80% to 90% of Kenya's healthcare workers do not practice infection protection and prevention control measures, a situation that has now prompted the Ministry of Health, in partnership with all 47 counties, to today launch an infection prevention control measures strategic report to curb the disease.
So one of our challenges as healthcare workers is to be able to change that practice, that what we preach and what we put in documents that we have developed, we actually practice that and can also be able to influence community members and households, then they can also be able to do the correct practices.
Lack of water, poor hygiene and shortage of latrines have been identified as some of the main contributors to the spread across the 10 counties.
As a national government, we have developed infection prevention control interventions together with the counties. We have done risk communication. We have supported the counties in terms of diagnostics, and we also working with the counties to ensure availability of safe potable water.
Cholera is an acute diarrheal infection affecting both children and adults, contracted when one consumes food or water contaminated with the bacteria Vibrio cholerae. Those infected tend to have diarrhea, vomit, and experience a rapid heart rate, low blood pressure, and muscle cramps. Elizabeth Atienum, TV 47.
Now, as the world is set to commemorate the World AIDS Day celebrations today, the Ministry of Health has reported tremendous progress in HIV testing over the last 1 year. The National Syndemic Diseases Control Council has also continued with a triple threat campaign, of course, aimed at ending AIDS in 2030, as Joash Onsari reports.
With just hours to the commemoration of World AIDS Day, the Ministry of Health and its partners have today launched the Ministry of Health HIV and GBV response tools and documents to help in achieving the 95-95-95 targets. Speaking during the commemoration of Pre-World AIDS Day at the Kenyatta National Hospital in Nairobi, Director of Medical Services Dr. Andrew Mulwa said the ministry has reported a significant progress in HIV testing and treatment over the last 1 year, as the government is keen on eradicating HIV and AIDS by 2030.
Everything we do here, including the dance, they cost money. It's never for free. So responding to HIV costs money. We need resources to buy testing kits. We need resources to pay healthcare workers, and we need resources to buy ARVs. And these people who have ARV, 1.2 million, they are not dying tomorrow. It is lifelong.
Perpetrators are grown-ups, you and me, and the end result of those children who are abused is HIV/AIDS.
In Bungoma County, the National Syndemic Diseases Control Council heightened its awareness campaigns aimed at curbing the spread of HIV and suppressing cases of gender-based violence. Various stakeholders while addressing residents at poster grounds in Bungoma after a candle lighting service to remember 2 million people who have succumbed to HIV since the first case was reported in the country, called on Kenyans to embrace the affected members of the society.
Kwa hapa siku ya leo sababu ya kuwakumbuka the 2 million Kenyans who have lost their lives to HIV and HIV-related illnesses. Families have lost breadwinners, loved ones.
Kuna wakati tulikuwa tunapoteza watu kama 1,100 kwa mwaka. Saa hizi tunapoteza watu around 20,000, lakini pia ni wengi. Tuko na huzuni kwa sababu baada ya miaka 10, mwaka uliopita ilikuwa mwaka ya kwanza vifo za HIV ama AIDS ziongezeke.
In their efforts to end teenage pregnancies and gender-based violence in Bungoma County, leaders have vowed to hold to account the perpetrators in accordance with the law.
Wasichana wetu wa hapa wakifanya maneno ya ngono hadharani chini ya malori na inaenea, na hiyo ni watu wanatoka pale, wanakuja kuwaletea watoto wetu hapa magonjwa hao.
Nyinyi watoto wadogo, tafadhali, kama hujapata wacha. Wale wako nao ni sawa, tutatibu, lakini wale hamjapata wacha.
Serikali inazidi kutoa services to people living with HIV. And we want those services to be very of good quality.
World AIDS Day celebrations are set to be held across the country, with national celebrations taking place in Kibabii University in Bungoma. Joash Omsare, TV 47, Bungoma County.
Thank you, Joash, for that report. Certainly, gains that have been made, but unfortunately as well, the cases continue to rise, and we ask ourselves why, what needs to be done. Why is it that we're reversing the gains that we have made over years? But all the same, the conversation is on, and the necessary stakeholders definitely would get to many for us to be able to tame this. And it's at this very point that I get to introduce the gentlemen that joined me for a very, very important conversation this morning. We're looking at the Hustler Fund, and beyond the Hustler Fund, there's so much that is playing out in the space of politics. We have our PSs being vetted. Just how lucky are they to sway in, all of them, upon, of course, that presentation of their names to the president. And beyond that also, there's equally the game that is still on. Is very, very important. And as much as, we're also looking at all this, we know that we have by-elections slated ahead of us, but even worse is that the conversation of the IBC 4, that is Cholera 4, is still on, and they get to know their fate today. So this gentleman will help me decipher on these very, very important conversations and many other things that have been captured on the papers, as well as the things that we've worked on, that is today. And so allow me to introduce Mheshimiwa Kiruga Duku, who's a member of County Assembly. Member of County Assembly of Chinga Ward in Nyeri County. Mheshimiwa, how are you?
Very fine.
Karibu sana.
Asante, thank you very much. I would like to greet all the viewers, especially those people from Chinga, people from Othaya, the people from Nyeri, and thank you very much for having us here. Of course, this is a great program.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate the fact that you're always, there to speak to the people of Kenya every time we call for you, as well as the person who's disappeared for the longest time I know, and that is Josephat Kamanya, who's a political analyst. Asante sana, Josephat, for creating time to be with us. How have you been?
I've been good, Linda.
Yes.
It's a beautiful morning. The rains are here. Happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you.
You're still receiving gifts.
Thank you.
And it's good to be here. I want to believe also my friend will be a member of parliament. So
yes,
your slip of the tongue is prophecy.
And we also want to believe that you will be. Sometimes it begins from that point, and now we rub shoulders with the right people. Yeah.
So just to urge our road users to share the road.
Oh yes.
Today is the first day of the last day of the month. And as we get into the December, there will be a lot of traveling up country. People are having fun. Let's share the road and be safe.
That's true. Very, very important, especially when it's a little bit rainy and chilly. You need to be very careful on the road. Engineer.
Thank you so much for having me, Linda, and I look forward to having a very insightful discussion. Last week, I attended an engineers conference in Diani, where we were able to address issues of climate change and how engineers can be able to support. And I look forward to also giving my input here on this and other issues.
That's good. And speaking of which, I would definitely love for us to speak of that. We have 2 minutes before we take a short break, and that's a very important conversation coming from COP27, and understanding very well how engineers then come in handy, because we're talking about going green. And they are the heart of manufacturing. They are the heart of infrastructure. They are the heart of basically everything and anything that pertains to even our very own agriculture and so much more. So when we speak about the involvement of engineers in this space of preserving the environment, we ask ourselves that despite the meetings, despite the conversations, we really do not seem to make much of gains. Instead, we are reporting, drawbacks. Just why?
The challenge we realized in that conversation we had last week is that engineers seems to have what we call political capital. And therefore, when it comes to policy making directions, they are not part of the conversation. There seems to be the people who are told do this and this and this by the politicians. So we were encouraged to really participate in the politics so that we can be able to be also the policy makers, the policy drivers, and our voice can be heard. In this administration, we only have one engineer who has been nominated as a PS. In the cabinet position, there's none or no engineer. I think there are 9 lawyers. So you can see how the disparity is in terms of the mix of professions. So I'm calling upon the engineers out there. It is your responsibility over the next 5 years to really participate in the politics of this country, because if you're not in the politics, then you cannot be able to play the politics of making policy. And that's very important for every one of us. Even if you look at the COP27 issues, these are political matters. They will require political will. So even if we have solutions that we can offer in terms of managing the what we call adaptation to climate change, if we don't participate equally in the political space, we will not be able. So I'm encouraging the members of parliament who are engineers, MCAs who are engineers, senators, please let your voice be heard, let your input be felt, so that we can be able to make the necessary changes. Buildings are collapsing, not because we are not doing our work, but because the politics of how managing, planning and approval of works is not being done right. Yet the engineers have done their work, but in terms of supervision, somebody else is doing it. So we need to be able to really be able to be heard, so that we can have our impact felt in the.
All right, that's a very, very important matter to discuss on. Gentlemen, I know you'd love to weigh in, even if it's a minute, but allow us to take a quick short break first, and then we'll come back to that.
Thank you.
The home of untold stories.
Usiyakubalie maumivu.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming, Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming, Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming, Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming, Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Good enough. And it's interesting to even imagine, Kamanya, that we now are talking about creating a balance. And when we're talking about gender balance, we're talking about regional balance, we're talking about, youth being incorporated. Now we're talking about professional balance. Yeah.
I think, first of all, it goes to inform that as a country we are evolving. And we are not falling short of what is required for us to progress in terms of development. So when I look at the climate change at first, I feel our engineers, to a point, they have gotten us where we are. Remember, they told us coal is okay, so we got into the coal industry.
Yes.
We got into the motor industry, and there has been immense manufacturing of motor vehicles. And then we are saying we need to walk away from the fossil fuels by the same engineers. So I think the developments that we are experiencing, we need to start having a bit of a focus. How are we going to mitigate the consequences? Because with every innovation, in time, there will be a repercussion. And climate change is something that has caught us off guard. We never accepted that it was going to be a problem. I think looking back, almost 20 years ago, when Al Gore, I think he was a senator, he warned against climate change, but no one listened. People said, no, 20 years is too far away. And now here we are, we are having to now juggle on how to recover, because already we are suffering.
But are we ever going to recover anyway?
Yes, we can. There is hope for us. We can reverse some of these changes. And I think when Crispus talks about involving our engineers, yes, it's good to have them in the political arena, but they necessarily don't have to be in the political space. They need to be supported for them to practice respectively in their own areas, and then have policies that are friendly to our users. Number one, our users is our Kenyans. Because I think some of these methods that we employ, even in terms of building and structures, we need to reevaluate. What can we do differently as a country? Chinese used to build their houses with bamboo trees, and they would not collapse. So how is it concrete and steel can fall down and take away lives, like we've had experiences in the last couple of weeks here in Kenya, and yet we are not able to see what can we do different. So I think it is a call for everybody, from the political side, from the Kenyans, from the engineers. Even them, they have to be very prudent in their practice. Because you realize there is always every house that comes down, you will find a file. Reports were made, they visited the site, NCA was there, they stopped the construction, but it still continued until it is too late. So it's a collective responsibility.
That's true.
Even us as investors, we need to now employ the best systems, the modern practice of construction, the modern practice of farming, because it's not just about building. We use pesticides in the farms.
That's true.
I'm a farmer. And every time we are doing that, we are depleting the soil, we are depleting the ecosystem. This climate change thing started going, the rain stopped coming when the trees went away.
That's true. And by the day, they are going away.
Everything, we started clearing. Now they are coming.
Trees are coming back.
These are hustler guys, and so. But it's fine. It is fine. You can trust them for a moment.
We've cleared all the forests. Look, our own Mau forest. Look at the Amazon. Look at all the water catchment areas, all the swampy areas, all the riparian land is gone. That is when we started losing it.
And historically, we have gotten to that point where those ones that were food baskets are now asking for food from other regions, from other people. Come to Mount Kenya, we still have Kenyans that are sleeping hungry, can barely afford a meal a day. And then you ask yourself that, trees are long-term solutions, so to speak. But then again, are we really going to reverse this, whole matter and get to a space where we can confidently say that, well, even with all these conferences that have been held, the talks, the money that has been put to it, indeed, we have made progressive gains for that matter?
Of course, you have no choice. We have to reverse those adverse effects that we have been witnessing. And planting trees is one of them. And I think among the most serious governments in this endeavor of planting trees is the Hasra government. So it can be reversed. Well, I like there's a topic that the engineer has brought up. Because, of course, like my friend here was saying, you know, engineers also have to own up to certain failures. Whenever a building comes down, an engineer is there. So we want them, as much as we want them to be incorporated in the other issues. In fact, even in our assembly, we have an engineer, a guy called Engineer Ruto, a very nice guy. So as much as we want, they want to fight for space in other areas, government appointments and what have you, they also need to be serious in the areas where we rely on them. For example, every other day the government, the buildings are coming down. It's a very sad thing. We are losing properties, we are losing lives in some instances. So that is it. But what I like most is that now he is bringing on the table the issue of engineers, just like I will bring on the table the issue of MCEs. Because, you know, it may interest you to know, Linda, for the first time since the advent of multi-party politics, all the MCAs in the Republic of Kenya have united to unanimously call for Ward Equitable Fund, which is a fund not necessarily for MCAs, but this is a fund for our wards. When we talk of devolution, we are saying it should start at the ward level. And Linda, this week, all the 47 counties, or the 47 county assemblies in the Republic of Kenya, we had a motion because we believe we want our agenda also to be annexed in the ongoing discussion in the National Assembly. You realize MPs want the CDF.
Yeah.
Senators want an actualization fund. Women reps want a certain fund. Governors and the county governments, they have their own kitties. You see? The national government, they have their kitties. This shows you, Linda, our people are not interested in these stories. You are telling them about oversight, you are telling them about representation, you are telling them about registration. They want to see tangible development.
Yeah.
And I've always given the example of Nyeri County, where we have currently a very good governor. This governor came and gave us ward fund. And Linda, for example, in my ward, we have been able to do bridges that we were not able to do even when President Mwai Kibaki was there on the seat.
Yeah.
But because you see the government have a lot of things to do, now they were somehow skipped.
Yeah.
But when the governor came and gave us the ward fund in Nyeri County, in fact, we have been the county number 1 in the Republic.
Okay.
So what we are saying is, we have united across party lines. Now we are not discussing as Hasoras or ODM or Kuzimia or what have you.
Okay.
We are here, we are saying we have been elected as MCAs in the Republic of Kenya. For example, I represent my county in the governing council of CAF, and we have very good leadership currently at the county assemblies forum. You know, the Speaker Marakwet and Honorable Chege here.
Yeah.
Very nice guys. So we are discussing what will bring or what will take our people forward. And so that kitty, Ward Equitable Development Fund, must be actualized. We are petitioning the National Assembly as they discuss CDF, as they discuss the kitty for senators, as they discuss the kitty for women reps. Can you also discuss about the ward fund? Because, in fact, you know, the MCA wakes up, people are there. Yes, that is the most basic development unit.
Hold it right there. And I definitely want to know whether the people then would trust the fact that members of county assemblies or members of parliament have gotten to a space where they discuss as one Kenya, as opposed to, you know, speaking in lines with parties. And of course, the classic example of the Cholera that is happening right here, and still so much more that is yet to come, and also guided by their very own party leaders as to how they're supposed to handle matters. Have we matured to that level where we can trust the members of of county assemblies to say that, they now speak as Kenyans as opposed to speaking as members of Kenya Kwanza and the other side. In Nyeri, there's no member of Azimio, right? They're all...
There is no opposition.
There's no opposition. So, you could be talking about Nyeri.
Even the independents are hustled. But the good thing is, on the issue of ward equitable fund, from Kisumu to Nyeri, from Mombasa to Rodwa, from Kitale, to Moyale.
This is the forum of the members of county assembly.
Yes, all of us are speaking in one voice.
Is it because it's the fund?
And it is not our fund. It is not. This one does not.
It is a fund for the people.
Yes.
It is the people's fund.
This is a people's fund.
Hold it right there. Let's allow Benji Ndolo come in. Benji Ndolo, good morning.
Good morning, Linda.
I
was coming from very far and already kind of indicated yesterday.
Yeah, thank you.
I myself.
And I've come from Machakos.
Machakos is just here.
But Linda, on a very sincere note, good morning.
Good morning.
December.
Yes. Oh, it's the first day of December.
And you look lovely, by the way.
Thank you. This gentleman.
Because I'm sure they didn't see.
They cannot.
I just say, when Benji comes here, there will be trouble.
How is this trouble?
And by the way, it takes a strong woman to host all these men.
All these men and strong men for that matter.
But it's not.
These things we were telling Linda of the air. Benji has to come here and make us all look very bad.
It's because you have to get some things off your chest to move forward. But thank you.
He's monetizing. Honest person. If they told me that, I would accept. Mheshimiwa, you did not tell me.
But you said it off the air.
Did you?
Yeah. You are being fixed there by the engineers.
Yes.
Benji, welcome.
Thank you very much indeed.
That we can trust them?
Yes, I'm looking at the headline there.
Yes.
Hustle
life. And we're going to get to that. Don't take us very fast.
Oh, sorry, I shouldn't take it too fast. But it's such a good headline.
Yes.
Especially considering that newspaper is owned by Gideon Moi.
Okay.
I'll look at that.
All right, that's a plus. Actually, I looked at it and I thought, Gideon Moi, that's the first thing that came to my mind.
And that is
the first thing.
Remember, Linda, I work in political strategy and all of that. Mheshimiwa is here.
Yes.
When you have such coverage, it says a lot. Mheshimiwa, it says a lot. And you must capitalize as a government on that goodwill because it's not a very long window. I had a discussion somewhere the other day with someone and they said, by around February next year,
there'll be a switch.
Yes, of the mood. In fact, I think we talked about that the last time we were here. So we have a short window, but you can really now get Kenyans to support and to move forward. I can see also in The Nation, page 5, that there is a plan to give Honorable Raila in Azimio a powerful office for opposition.
That is their plan.
Yes, exactly. For opposition.
It should work, yeah?
Yes, it should. So that now you have clear defined roles.
But you see, that's exactly what we're asking, when he says that they're now speaking in unison.
Yes.
They're now speaking the same language.
Yes.
And also politically, now that you say we are talking politics, when they speak the same language, we get worried.
That's true. I'm not saying they should speak the same language. I'm saying there should be clear roles.
Yes.
Yeah, and now you can ask me your question.
All right. The question is as straight as what it is that he was talking about. Can we trust, our leaders to say that today then they'll speak on behalf of the people of Kenya as opposed to their own interest, affiliations and all that?
It depends so much on the political culture. Mheshimiwa will tell you, and again, sometimes we have very good discussions off air.
Yeah.
We live in a country where I'm not in politics per se myself. In other words, I'm not an elected leader. But just based on the things I do and the TV appearances, etc., you can imagine you go on the ground, and he knows, even when I'm in his place, because I travel a lot. I'm in Nakuru County day after tomorrow. I was in Nyeri County a few weeks ago. People stop you, say, Mheshimiwa, give me something. Where do you get the something? And many times you give. I know he gives.
Yeah.
I'm saying it on there. I know he gives. I know we had a discussion here, and I know he'll give the little
that you have up to the very last.
I know Mheshimiwa gives,
and therefore it's important for them to have some of this.
Yeah. So in that kind of context, therefore, you can understand why many times they do things that seem selfish and shallow and short-term, but it's because of the fiscal pressure. You're not an MP forever. You also have a wife at home saying, this is the time to buy a house. You know the value of property now. I saw the other day the young man from Western somewhere, the young fellow who's been making a lot of noise, saying that the constituents came to him and said, Mheshimiwa, we want to also see you driving this Toyota V8 that everybody has. So I think he bought one for something like 11 million. And actually, It sounds
the pressure
insane,
is
but
real. Yes,
it's very real on the ground.
Yes,
yes, on the ground.
And I've been asking this question: are we the ones that have made, or we've breeded this kind of thing for the Mheshimiwas? Because yes, engineer, you definitely, they will even laugh at you if you've been in government for 5 years and you come out and you have nothing. They will laugh at you, to be honest, and they run away out from their homes. When you see Mheshimiwa coming here at 6, when I tell him the show that it's 6:30, is because literally by the time it's 6, there are people somewhere outside queuing to wait and see what it is they're going to do. So he has to leave the house very early.
The politician is a product of our people. Yes. So our people have fed this idea that if you become a politician, you are the person we go for anything. Yeah. Whether I want to get married, whether I'm sick, whether I have a problem with my wife, that is a man or a woman I need to go to. So this whole culture of leadership and how we define leadership in Africa is a conversation we need to have so that our people can understand that this person, the resources you want from him, they come from you. So as long as you want him to give you something, when he gets to office, there'll be pain on you at one point. And therefore, people need to understand that it is not his money or her money that you're going to take. Yeah. It is your money. So the best thing would be allow this man to have his space to perform so that he can be able to produce enough for everyone and people don't have to come and depend on it. Yes. This whole culture of depending is not just in Kenya. Even if you go to Tanzania, if you go to Uganda, anywhere in Africa, politician has looked as people who have to give. And when you fail to give, the question is, what were you doing? Why did you take to the office? Right. What kind of a person are you? You are a failure. Yeah. And you'll never get re-elected. So that's a very sad issue that is happening, but that's reality.
Now that we're talking about the Hustler Fund and the Hustler game and all these headlines that we speak of, it doesn't matter how they have been phrased. What's important is that the fund is here. Yes. The right towards the right, the path towards the right direction in terms of us rooting out some of this culture of, they call it nipatie, kutikidogo. Because then if you have this fund and you're able to conduct business, then I don't think you will want to sumbua Mheshimiwa, and Mheshimiwa will tell you, can you go for the Hustler Fund and start up something?
I think there are two concepts we have to contend with. One, the concept of buying votes, kununua kura, remains, not just during the campaigns, but also through your term in office. If Mheshimiwa doesn't give something, the people start saying he's stingy, tutapatana nawe kwa debe next.
And they make sure that
they keep those promises.
They keep those promises.
So, us as voters, we need to agree that we have to redefine the kind of leadership we want. The reason you're even hearing the consensus on the push for the World Development Fund, the World Development Fund, is because they want a budget to operate with.
Yeah.
But you also have to be very careful not to dilute the constitutional mandate of our elected leaders, which is representation, legislation, and oversight. Yeah. Much as they deserve a budget. But also, we have to be very careful because, again, it is not all about running projects through the year and spending money through the year. It is about also ensuring that we have policies, we have laws, we have legislation that serves the public good. So that is one thing. But on the other hand, as we welcome the Hustler Fund, and I think this is one milestone in the Hustler Nation, we deserve celebration. Yeah. It's a promise made, a promise kept, and we have come through on it. Yes. And we also need to realize, not only did we launch the Hustler Fund yesterday, but all the people who are blacklisted on CRB because of M-Shwari, because of KCB and M-Pesas, they were freed. So if you want to borrow some money today, which you could not do yesterday because of the rating, you still can. And in addition to that, you can access the Hustler Fund. This comes down to capital for the small business persons in the Republic of Kenya. I know people are going to try and politicize it, but there is a person who will benefit today from the 20,000. They'll be able to stock their shop. There is a parent today who was wondering, how am I going to take my kids up country? Now they have access to that. It doesn't come for free. It is a loan. It's not a handout. People are going to pay. Yeah. But we also have to be acknowledging that, the one thing we have been trying to recover from as a country is access to capital. During and since this COVID issue. remember, a lot of people were laid off. They started small businesses, which they could not sustain. And then once you are locked out because of the CRB ratings, and I'm not saying that people should not be vetted. I mean, you have to have a way of controlling credit. The lenders must have their own security measures in place so they don't incur losses 100%. Because, you know, there is no insurance coverage on most of these loans. So it's a lot of fiscal and financial balancing so that we serve the public good and we also ensure that people are able to recover whatever they lend out and they remain in business. We also cannot lock out the other lenders who are not within the hustler nation, who are private lenders, the banks, the microfinances. You know, we cannot push them out of business. So it's a balancing scale. But now it's upon the Kenyan to decide, what do I do with the hustler fund that I'm going to borrow?
But have Kenyans really understood what the hustler fund is all about? And I know that this information is here. A lot of confusion, and again, also politicians are taking advantage of trying to, you know, speak a different narrative that would get most of the Kenyans really not understanding this whole matter. I hope you've read the reports that say in about, you know, seconds,
yes,
you know, very few seconds, about like per second, 600 borrowers were trying to access the hustler fund.
Yeah.
Is this to show that Kenyans were perhaps excited and trying to just see whether it works or not? Or there's that dire need of this money? And there will there be that discipline that we speak of that got a majority of people, you know, in CRB in the first place?
It cuts into both. One, there's the initial excitement.
Yes.
We have a new product. Everybody wants to try it out.
Yes.
And then you realize, oh, I have 10,000, but I have to pay it back in 2 weeks.
Yes.
So there is that initial excitement. Then remember, it's end month. You know, people also are broke, and there is need for money to go around. But people need to realize this is a loan. The same way you've been going for Fuliza, the same way you've been going for Mshwari, the same way you've been going on these other apps, you've borrowed and you've had the responsibility of paying. This is equally a loan that is payable, and actually, remember, it's coming from the government. So there could be dire repercussions further ahead if you default on this facility.
And so, Mheshimiwa, the excitement, you know, it's not even a joke when we speak about 600 borrowing requests per second. It's not a joke when we're talking about, well, for the first time, it was supposed to be accessed by around 5 million, and now 25 million people applied for it. You just ask yourself, are we in that space where there's that dire need?
No, first, you know, I would like to congratulate our president. And I think I've said in this set severally that President Ruto is a person who means what he says and says what he means. You know, this was one of our key promises as we campaigned for the Hustler government. And you know what is there? Indeed, you know, the Hustler Fund has been, you know, it's been being talked about for a certain period of time. In fact, there are those who are just going there just to confirm that it will work, because they have been saying it will not work, but it will work. And you know, the concept of the Hustler Fund, I have seen some people saying one side is too little, 2,000 is too little. It depends, because it is not for the likes of engineer here and my brother Beji here. They can do their big money.
And you think it really does depend, because you see, we're talking about, you know, perhaps setting up a business.
But them, you know what we are saying, it's like wale watu wakubwa waashana na chakula ya watoto. If you think the money is so small for you,
just let it
is not for you.
Okay.
But look at that person who operates a kiosk. That person can borrow 1,000, buy unga chapati, buy some oil. You know, at the end of the day, he will most probably have made another 1,000. So those are the kind of people we have in mind when we talk of the Hustlers Fund. And you even saw the president yesterday, you know, mentioning Mahidi Shoma there. Those are the kind of the people, the kind of small business people the Hustler Fund want to uplift. And indeed, this will be a little bottom-up situation. Now, talking of this other issue, because I still want to touch it so that I can bring Beji up to speed. The issue of the money for the wards.
Yes.
My brother Beji, you know, for the first time in the history of multi-party Kenya, all the MCs, irrespective of their parties, are agreed there should be a ward fund. Look at what has been happening in Meru. The MCs were saying, we are telling the governor, give us development money. But the governor is telling us, no, you're asking for bribes. To eliminate all those things, that's why we are saying, let there be a ward. And my brother here, Manya, is talking about those other oversight rules and what have you. But as I said, as we began, people nowadays don't want stories. Look, if senators are calling for an oversight, and you know, for a kitty,
yes,
and you know their work is largely to oversight the county government, it shows you people want politics of development. People want politics of resources. You just don't come to us and give us stories. We want, at the end of the day, we want to know, we have a bad road there, we have a bridge there, we have that other need there. So, and this is a very good thing. In fact, nobody should be opposing such an idea because it's about resources going back to our people. The MCAs will be governed by certain laws, just like the CDF does. You can see how the MPs have been up in arms against everyone because they know without this kitty, without the CDF, you know, you become a leader who will just be going there to give stories to people or use your own money. So what we are saying is, let this government money start at the lowest point there. And because Benji also touched on this issue of the opposition wanting
and I'm coming to respond to you by the
the opposition want to create the post of the official leader of the opposition. I think that would be a very good thing, so that people can get into serious, meaningful things to do. But Linda, you cannot come here. You take your child, you give him a job, or her, you give him or her a job in Arusha. Then you come back to the children of the hustlers.
To tell them to go to the streets.
Now let us go to the streets
let's come to that.
Let's start uprooting the railway line and start throwing stones. No, we are saying this time around, if you want us to uproot the railway, if you want us to throw stones, your children should be reading.
After this short break, after
the material is too much now.
After this break, yeah.
Much obliged. As they say in court.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and had fun. And most importantly, we have grown together through this journey. Happy holidays. You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
Honorable Kiruga Duku is with us this morning, Josephat Kamanya, as well as Benji Ndolo, and lastly, Engineer Wadhimba Crispus, as we decipher on these matters that are playing out in the country. The Hustler Fund is here, Benji Ndolo, but equally, I know you want to respond to Mheshimiwa on a couple of matters that he speaks to.
Exactly. Mine is more of, because Mheshimiwa is my friend, you know, sometimes we come in here and we debate and it seems like a fight, but mine is more of a philosophical argument regarding the issues we're discussing this morning, Linda. And the reason is because, you know, you want to anchor a discussion, not so much on personalities, but more on the overarching principles. So that we're not now talking so much about, you know, like you're saying, Kumwareli and Raila's daughter or whatever. I mean, sometimes that tires me out. And I'd rather talk about the climate, business climate, about the economic environment, about the macroeconomics. And it's because on a broadcast like this, there are also policymakers in government listening, sometimes the president himself or his handlers. Linda, I wanted to make the point that Kenya is 60 years old next year. In fact, we have Jamhuri Day in 2 weeks, because today is December 1st. Less than 2 weeks. So Kenya being 60 years old, it bothers me a great deal that even on something like Hustler Fund, we actually have a provision for $5, 500 shillings. Many times as I do my consultancies, I always joke and say that, Linda, even today in your job, if you look at what you earn, anywhere across the country, we have two problems. The size, and I'm happy an engineer is here because they're mathematicians. The size and scope of the economy. They need to expand that exponentially, number one. Number two, to distribute. Because money is nothing. I'm seeing here an article on 25,000 acres of Makto. In fact, I thought it's 2,500. Money is nothing if it is all concentrated in Benji's hands or in Linda's hands and nobody else. So they need to distribute. And so just imagine where we would be if the lowest amount for Hustler Fund, rather than 500, add 10 to 5,000. And that's what I was talking about, even your own pay. If you look at what you earn and you say, if you could just add one more zero. Just one. It's a game changer. If you already do your consultancy, you do the knee, and they pay you 200,000 or 2 million. If you just envisage how it could just be, not be greedy, not many, just one more zero, from 2 million to 20 million, you can now see the ripple effect. It's a game changer. And on the top end, it maxes out at 50,000 to start with. It would now max out at 500,000. Now you're really talking. This is an economy now that, you know, and these are the kind of policy things that elected MCAs, elected MPs need to be thinking in that regard, because many times they also just, you're so bogged down in all the problems and pressures, you can't really think ideas-wise. We don't have ideation many a time. You don't have an MP who, you know, if Nani stands up and speaks, he'll give us an idea. Like CDF, I was saying yesterday that what CDF was to Mwai Kibaki is what this Hustler Fund can be to William Ruto. It's just a matter of how it is. And interestingly, my friend Susan Mangenian, former colleague, is actually the PS coming to administer this fund. This is a fund to be administered with, she's worked in the Auditor General's office. So you can imagine she should be very fiscally prudent, very disciplined. This is not a fund to play around with, you know, or to harass Kenyans around for. This is a fund to administer, you know, in a very methodical manner, with utmost accountability. But again, it really bothered me a great deal that somebody will actually go in and key in all those things looking for 500
shillings.
Where are we, my friend?
And honestly, that really is the biggest problem.
Let us not justify poverty.
I want to educate Benji
Yes.
on the economies of numbers.
Okay. Yes.
There is somebody who wakes up in the morning. For example, a matatu conductor.
Yeah.
He lives in this house. He needs to leave that 500 shillings
at home
with the wife, with the guy at the shop, and the border guy who will take him to take his ride to work.
Yeah.
Then he knows at the end of the day, I do like 10 rounds. I'll get 100 shillings from every round. So I have 1,000. So the 500 he borrows in the morning, he's able to repay it in the evening as 500 plus the interest.
Okay.
Then he has his 400 shillings or whatever as profit.
Okay.
That number is very important. I run a construction company. Okay. There is a woman who comes and cooks for people. All she needs is a bale of flour, nyama kidogo, and some cooking oil to cook for my 5 workers. At the end of the day, I will be able to pay them, and then they'll pay her. That number is very important.
Okay.
Leader.
So there is a space. There is a space.
I don't think the engineer understood me.
There is a space for ideas of 500 shillings, and there is a space for 50,000.
And
what we are saying is
Benji's worry is that this is
I don't know. The engineer is not. The engineer is not hearing me. The engineer is not hearing me.
Poverty.
What I want to support it.
The engineer is not hearing me.
What Benji should know is that when 500 is in the hands of about 5 million Kenyans, Benji, small scale traders, that money is more helpful than when Benji, engineer, and a few other Kenyans, like 10 Kenyans, have 10 million each.
Okay.
You know, this is money that is helping this country to grow. So my brother should know.
Let's hear whether Josephat perhaps understands you, and then you
Thank you, Linda. I think
let us see whether he
this is the power of perception.
Yes.
Both parties are right. Benji is saying, from where I stand, I would have benefited from 500,000 today. And Mohesh and engineer are saying, no, the 5,000 is enough for me. But we have to appreciate that in Kenya, we have different stratas of existence.
Yeah, that is the thing.
We have people who are in the micro and the macro sectors of business.
Yes.
But this is what I want to agree with Benji on. That 60 years into our independence,
my friend,
there should be some financial freedom and independence.
That's the point.
That is number one.
One second, Mheshimiwa.
No, both of you.
1 second, Mheshimiwa.
Just both of you.
Let's allow him finish.
It's true. It's okay, but let them not eat their cake and have it.
I was the number 1 campaigner for the Hustler Fund.
Yes.
And I'm here saying,
and you still are in support of the Hustler Fund.
Yesterday, I tried it out with my friends, and it is working.
Okay.
And I'm encouraging people to enroll for business purpose, not for leisure. So I am agreeing now with Benji that yes, we do need to make very drastic financial progress so we can liberate our people from this financial dependence, whereby we are breeding poverty. Because I can tell you here and now, there will be a lot of defaulting.
Yes.
There will be. There will be.
Yes.
It's going to simmer down. In about 6 months, 1 year, the uptake is going to go down. Why? Because also most of our small businesses are not strongly sustainable. So I agree. There also needs to be a lot of civic education. How do we inject capital? If you look at other countries, you can do your mortgage for 2-3 times. But here, default on one loan, you cannot access any more capital for you to inject into your business.
Exactly.
So even as we defend our positions, as we agree with the plan, as we roll out our manifesto, as we serve the Kenyans, we also bear the responsibility of telling people the truth, that we are doing badly as a country financially.
Exactly the point.
So we need liberation.
Right.
So even though we are going to inject capital, Hustler Fund is one. There is a lot of, budget is coming. 2023-2024 budget is going to be one of the most promising and exciting budget. There will be deliverables that will be meted directly to the country so that we can have this economic revamping. Engineers need to come into play. We need to talk about food. When we talk about GMOs, is because the buying power of a Kenyan has been suppressed. Give somebody 500, correct. But they're going to buy unga at 200.
Yes.
What are we
talking about?
Eventually.
Linda, you must manage the MP.
I want to remind my friends something as they discuss.
Mheshimiwa, you're out of order. Mheshimiwa, you're out of order.
Allow us. You know,
Mheshimiwa, you're out of order.
You speak for 10 minutes, you go to the
Proceed so he can respond.
This is the thing.
Yes.
And I can tell you, leader, the success of this fad, in fact, I don't even know whether President William Ruto will do any campaigns because hustlers will re-elect him back, with the right side. Look, the president started a 50 billion kitty, hustlers kitty. The ripple effect of this have already started being felt. The Equity Bank have said they will inject a further 250 billion, into the hustlers fund, whereby they will copy what the government is doing and join that procedure. Now, the other financial institution may come in and start doing the same. So what we are saying is this, and this is what I want my friends to understand. And I want to blame my two friends here because they are blowing hot and cold. My brother Kamanya is saying, yes, this shows we are in a bad place. Yes, that is why the hustlers fund is coming.
But just how much of progress will it come with?
Look, Linda, when we talk of people creating wealth at the bottom level, and these people are paying taxes, I'm telling you, this will even create wealth for our government and for our country. So what people should be seeing, right, is how this fund will help the ordinary wananchi. A lot of money will be in circulation in our country, and hence we shall even stop talking about borrowing those very costly loans because
so
we are creating our own wealth through taxes.
The biggest difference is that the Hustler Fund is not expensive in relation to all the other funds that have been available because they've been in existence.
And some money will be being saved. For example, whenever you borrow this money,
1%.
There is some money which is being saved for you.
Yes.
And also, Linda, what this fund succeeds in doing is expanding the tax base. And when you expand the tax base, you do away with some of these costly loans because the government will be collecting enough taxes for development and for other issues.
Are you convinced, Benji?
Linda,
before we come to you,
Linda, Mushmo is my friend and he's completely out of line.
Yeah.
Some of us are veterans in this debate thing.
Yeah.
I'm talking from a point, engineer, having done governance work consistently for over 10 years while you are constructing commercial buildings and expressway and making a lot of money yourself. If you could, this is not an attack on anybody. There's a point I'm trying to make here that is more of a geopolitical, philosophical. There's a reason I chose that word. It was not even so much on drilling down on the numbers. It was more of a philosophical arcing that I was trying to base my argument on. Linda, it is just the other day when you and I were in a different station that we had mass panic when it became evident during COVID that we had to do some semblance of lockdown. And we had a very embarrassing discussion where people were saying, I cannot lock down even for one day because siwezi kaa bila 500 per day. Watoto wangu wanakufa kwa nyumba na njaa under President Uhuru. A lot of this kind of pressure comes to people like us who are sent.
Right.
Benji, can you get, can you influence policy? Can you talk to CS so-and-so? Can you get the president? Can you tweet? Can you say on your next show that we cannot afford to be home for even 5 days, even 1 week, because watoto wanakufa na njaa? So for me, I'm very sure of what I'm arguing about because we looked at some data here again in the last, I think, time I was here or the time before, where the data suggests evidentially that 19 million Kenyans are applying for visas to go to the US. Engineer, why? 19 million unable to find a job, and even the ones who have a job are underpaid. That brings me to the next question, because we always say exposure is everything. Engineer, what is minimum wage in most of the states today in 2022? Minimum wage, and you talk per hour. Minimum wage is $15. How much is $15? For me again, when you are coming from, I worked out there for 13 years. You come back home, would it be good for me to keep quiet and push policies for 500 shillings a day? Or is it good for me to build my country based on what I've seen in a country where minimum wage is 1,500 shillings an hour, and in my country we're talking about $5 a day? you know, is it prudent for me to say, okay, because a lot of Kenyans do that, Linda. And we live in a country where the rich and poor live together side by side. So you're talking of someone earning 15,000 shillings a month, but then that is just maybe my fuel, or Mweshimi was actually just fuel. And that's why I'm saying we're trying to augment is the word. We're not trying to, that's why I talked about the age of the country. We're not trying to justify and say, you know, that, and even officiate poverty. We are saying that, for example, $15 an hour works out to what a day? You're the
it's 8 hours. That is $120.
$120 is something
That's
like
15,000.
15,000 shillings a day. That's minimum wage. And you know, I was actually being asked the other day if I could do some work on the diaspora team for the president. If I traveled with you, some of these countries in the West, we can fly together to New York. We get off the subway, we hire a car and I drive you around. You know, that level of exposure and command of understanding exactly what I'm talking about. You can imagine 15,000 a day, and that is minimum wage. The person working in a petrol station, fixing punchers, somebody who is not educated. So 15,000 a day, then in a week you can see what that is. It comes to about 80,000 shillings. A lot of these are even Kenyans that do those jobs. They visit, a lot of them are my friends. I'm in the diaspora groups. I'm in the official diaspora group, Center for Diaspora Affairs, registered by Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which my own friend now, my former governor, Alfred Mutua, is the CS. So I don't want, when I'm having discussions with the CS, to be pushing what Mheshimiwa is saying, is telling him, you know, if you listen to Mutua, and I'm not his spokesman, Mutua is always talking big and augmenting big. Because you want to transform and move the country under William Ruto, even under Uhuru, that was our hope, to gallop and move so that people can be saying, do you know when Ruto came in, tulikuanga tuna earn hii na tumeongeza 1-0.
The tax regime, also is very, very important.
Because the tax, we are struggling to collect enough taxes,
but I think
and we're also squeezing the economy, excuse me. And so again, let me just wrap up my point. You can imagine on a minimum wage scale, how do you compare, you know, 300,000 shillings mtu wa chini? And the fact here that, I mean, we have people, even in Nairobi here, someone is living on 7,000 shillings a month. You can't explain it. And this is the person politicians count on for votes.
For a vote.
You can't explain it, and you can't justify it.
Yes.
I refuse.
Let me remind Benji that in that economy where people earn $15 an hour, the size of that economy is $17 trillion.
Yes. True.
Ours, the economy here, is less than
it's $3
trillion. So you cannot put the $15 an hour rate in Kenya. You will cause inflation.
Yes.
Okay? In Kenya, poverty is measured at less than $2 a day. Meaning a Kenyan who has $2 a day, he's able to feed himself, and he's able to take care of himself. That is where we are. So we cannot put zeros where they are not supposed to.
But is it not what he's saying? What will it take for us to now
What we need to understand, for example, the diaspora Kenyan, today there's a diaspora working in Middle East.
Yes.
He only earns $300 a month. Okay? As compared to a diaspora in America who earns that $300 in a day. That's the difference.
Yeah.
And in Kenya, there is a Kenyan who wants $150 in a month, and he's okay.
No,
he's able to feed himself.
Are they okay, really? Okay, they can manage. They can manage.
He can manage.
Okay, they can manage.
There's too much poverty in this country.
If you take,
there's too much poverty in this country.
If you take $150 to somewhere in rural Nakuru County,
it's a big
more
deal.
than enough money.
No.
You understand me?
Yes.
He'll get a house for 3,000 shillings. He will feed his family as 500 shillings. My mother has a permanent rental home. He charges people 2,500 shillings and they are happy. She gives them water for 500 shillings a month. She gives them electricity for 500 shillings.
Can you imagine a rental household?
Linda, that is the size of our economy. When you start telling
rental houses,
he needs to understand.
I'm with the engineer.
Linda,
rental houses that perhaps your mother
Benji drinks
took a loan
in Kilimani, where a drink is 500 shillings.
Yes.
I will go to Nakuru, I'll drink my summit drink at 150 shillings. That is Kenya for me. Living in Nairobi does not define Kenya.
You don't know how much
Kenya is not Nairobi.
How much
and I want to disagree. I want to disagree with Benji. He cannot define Kenya as Nairobi.
Step by step, Mheshimiwa. You also know that, you know, when you go back to the assembly, there's going to be order. Allow me to.
He's out of order.
Allow me to. Allow us to have.
Yes.
So it's completely out of order, you think?
Thank you,
right.
Linda. Thank you, Linda.
Yes.
Let me call the House to order.
Yes.
Hey, we are in agreement.
I'm doing it.
We are in agreement. I think the panel is in agreement.
Yes.
That we are in dire poverty.
Yes.
That we need to grow as a country.
Yes.
So, and I want to appreciate my fellow panelists and their opinions that some little money injected into the pockets of Kenyans will make a difference.
Yeah.
Yes.
But let not us define that as comfort.
Yes.
Let us not be okay with that.
With that.
Okay?
Okay.
Linda, we need to aspire to see Kenyans living beyond poverty line. Kenya is the hub of Africa. And it is only until the recent past we have been trying to drive away investors into Ethiopia and Egypt, and Ethiopia mostly, because of our levels of poverty, which create corruption,
correct,
which infiltrate into taxation.
What a bright man.
You get? So we need to sit down as a country and have a conversation that defines where we want to go. Where we are is understandable to everybody.
Yes.
I don't need to defend how poor we are. I don't want my people to be okay with 1,000, 1,500, even 15,000 per day.
What is that?
I would want to see my people content with how do we advance. How can the engineer tell us we do not need the GMOs? If we plant enough trees, we can have enough water and our rivers can come back and we can grow our organic food and we can feed our people. We don't want to tell our people, because you're poor and you're hungry, you might as well feed on the GMOs and die.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
is that the country we want? So what I'm saying is we need the augmentation he's talking about. We need also to appreciate the levels of living all the Kenyans are experiencing. We bring this together and come up with a model that is going to transform this country.
Right.
It is no more time to politic. The campaigns are over. We have a president, my president, that I supported and I continue to support. And I want to support his government until we get into another election, and then the country will decide how they want to move on. We have the mandate of delivering. To deliver, to make sure that Crispus is able to perform in his own respective area. To make sure that Benji is able to let people bring back the money into the country, the diaspora people, and invest because they know the environment is conducive.
It's conducive, yes.
To empower the MCA here with the budget that he requires so that he is effectively able to oversee the representation, the oversight, and the legislation at the county assembly and serve his people. That is the country we need to have. We have to be idealistic at some point and merge that with the reality that we are living in.
Mheshimiwa, I don't want us to, project this further, but definitely the conducive environment is one thing that we have to discuss.
Yes.
That is fine. You can access these monies. But then again, we're talking about the conduciveness of conducting business in the country. That person who is selling mahindi will tell you that by the time they even stand at that particular point they choose, it's not an easy thing. The Kanjo people are going to come there. In the evening, perhaps they'll have to move there.
The 21st century.
And roasting maize, you also do not want to celebrate that, to be honest.
But what are we talking about? Look, what the Belgians of this world need to understand.
60 years.
Yes,
even years.
Look,
is that progress?
Look, we
have to get serious.
No, Benji, relax.
You're a leader, my friend.
No, relax. You see, what Benji need to know, we cannot live in a make-believe world.
Yes.
What the hustler is doing, what President William Ruto have done. Remember, President William Ruto and most of his government ministers and other politicians in the hustler corner, they have traversed this nation. So they are not talking about things that they imagine. They are talking about things they have witnessed. You see? There are no jobs in this country. Go around, you get to see how many.
How is that even acceptable?
No, relax. Can you relax? Let me prosecute my case. You will have your own rebuttal.
You're protected.
So the issue is this: go around this country, you find how many youths are educated. They have papers. There are no jobs. So that is why the president has been consistent in saying, we will support, the informal sector, the Juakali, the vocational training sector, and most importantly, this hustler idea. Because where I am there on the ground, you find people They are struggling with school fees for their children. They are struggling with medical bills, right?
Yet you say these are the very same people that appear to be a little bit comfortable,
No,
and therefore
the issue is this.
Is that not what Benji is saying?
No, Benji, what we are telling the likes of Benji, they relax. You know, Benji will have no problem taking a drink worth about 10,000 here where they stay. But
maybe
at
it's
the
not the
village,
case.
that 10,000 for a person who is in my ward, look, that's a budget. School fees is there, medication money is there, you know, food is there. So what we are saying is, these monies, and you know that is where the confusion is coming in. The likes of Benji, they should not even touch that up. This is money for the small people down there.
Will we not be happy to have all of us at a level
but we will grow to, we will grow bit by bit. A child is not born today.
Is the environment conducive enough?
Of course. You know, we are the ones who are going to create that.
You've been here long enough, and you'll also understand, even those ones that are gurus in the space of business and the cartelism that has been there will tell you that it's not easy to conduct business.
Yeah, but the good thing, Linda,
the
is
licensing,
this. No, look, Linda.
the approval.
No, look here.
Yes.
You know what I like most? Initially, some people are telling us, this has a dream, you know, it's just imagination, it cannot be done. Now, I'm very happy because we are at a position whereby
the money
is out.
Okay.
And you see financial institutions are joining in and saying, for example, like I was telling you, Equity is saying they will inject 250 billion.
So this is public-private participation.
Exactly. And that is what the president is leading us in doing.
Yeah.
And Betty has mentioned something here about, you know, and also engineer, about those people who are working outside the country. I think we should not concentrate so much on wealth creation at the expense of even knowing, are those people really creating the wealth in the right manner? Because you see, one of the most spectacular failures in this country, when our people go to work outside there, do we follow up to ensure they are working in the conducive environments? No. Look, I mentioned about that girl, and I think I'll be mentioning about her in every show I appear. A Kenyan girl who went to work in Saudi Arabia, a girl from Udaya constituency. The girl, I think she was assaulted. She has been lying in a coma in a Saudi Arabian hospital for 8 years.
It happens.
You know,
is that what not? Is it not what?
That's
why we have 19 billion that are yearning to.
That's why we are saying it is not just about, you know, we are just chasing at wealth without coming back to ask ourselves, even as we pursue this wealth creation, are we realizing, is it conducive, just like you're asking? Because you see now, my brother Benji says, oh, our friend Mutua talks big, and he's a very good man, but we want even those small people. Like that girl in Saudi Arabia, I would expect CS Mutua to ensure that girl is brought back to the country.
But
no, gentlemen, after this.
When we come back, I have to be hard.
After this.
We need to reveal.
We have heard you.
We will.
It's very important.
Very important. We will.
Stories. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
hiyo kitu azungumzie, aangalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions, business, farming, Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates, Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, aangalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions, business, farming.
Before Benji speaks. So I'm not even going to be allowed to
manage the house.
All right.
Before Benji speaks, I think, because we are on national TV.
Yes.
And Kenyans are watching.
This is a broadcast.
They're not in a bar. Statements we have to be very careful to make. One, it's very unfortunate that we have a lady from Nyeri who is still suffering in the diaspora.
And who went to work as a house girl.
And they went to work there, we have to agree,
and
because they could not get some employment here.
Yes.
That's what we are telling you.
That's to labor exportation, whether to diaspora or elsewhere, is industrialization. If we have enough industries here, cottage and otherwise, we are going to absorb all the landed fellows we have in the country who are willing to work. The innovation, we need to have innovation hubs. That is one thing. So that even as people aspire to go and work elsewhere, it is not out of dire need, but it is more just for exploration and also to try and tap into their potential. So we have to have a global perspective on how we deal with our issues. We cannot keep on saying we are in Africa, we are poor, we have problems. People are going to borrow money. Remember, people don't borrow this money to go and to have fun and for leisure. They will borrow this money and go spend it at a private hospital. While the government is not providing enough and sufficient healthcare services for its citizens. If they did that, perhaps half the people would not need to borrow the money they keep borrowing from all these apps, So we need to have a bit of a progressive conversation. We have problems. We need all these funds from the governors, from the MCAs, from the MPs, from the Hustler Nation is here, is real. This is the government we are in. But we also need to have a broader perspective on how we deal with our issues. So that as people go to work in the diaspora, we know they are protected. No Kenyan should go out there and suffer. As the people who have worked in the diaspora for too long come back, they need to find a conducive environment for them to invest and create jobs. As the engineers try to roll out projects, they need to be prudent to make sure we are not scaring away investors by raising the cost of investment. So that we have a proper harmonization of the needs we have and the solutions we can provide for ourselves, and then source out for what we need.
And let's all agree, gentlemen.
And I pass on to Benji.
We have so much potential for
Yes.
And we have seen nations come from this level to greater levels, and therefore we cannot be comfortable.
I want to remind Kenyans.
Benji, you will sum it up,
I want to remind Kenyans that Kibaki administration took us where we were today and lifted many Kenyans from poverty.
Yes.
But did not make the cost of living very high. And therefore, for us to say that with 500 shillings we can be able to survive, we are not wrong. What we are saying is that during the Kibaki administrations, Huduma services were available to Kenyans. Education was available, healthcare was available, there was water being invested in, the cost of projects was very low. When this administration that has just left took over, they did not put the right people in the right places. Things became expensive. Then there were cartels. There were things we are being told which is called state capture. That is what we are trying to say. We don't want it to happen in this administration. But we also want to encourage Kenyans. Kenyans, the only asset you have is human capital. We don't have any extractive minerals that we can sell out there. We don't have any oil. Our biggest asset is our people. And therefore, we must continue encouraging people to do what we call human capital development. And if it requires us to go outside and learn, we go to do it. In the Philippines, the biggest export they have is labor. They make a lot of money. They even have a bank for the diaspora community where they can remit their money and their money is channeled properly. What we are saying in Kenya, the diaspora community is a very important asset. They need to be taken care of. The minister in charge needs to do his work to make sure that that industry is protected, it's developed, and it's able to be given the necessary support. But I just want to tell the panelists here, 500 shillings or 1,000 shillings or 50,000 shillings is not the issue. It's the value of that money we put down there. What does it bring? What value do we get from the 500 shillings? If I can give you 500 shillings and by the end of the day you have 1,000, it's okay. But even if I give you 50,000, by the end of the day you are poor because you drank all of it, it doesn't help. What we need to make sure is that the Hustler Fund has value, real value to the Kenyan people. Whether it's 500 or 5,000 or 50,000, it doesn't matter. And that's the important is to invest in the value.
That's then is what we're asking, you know, just creation of a conducive environment to conduct business, and equally the things that you call for. Because if I do not have 500 bob to go to hospital, I will definitely go to the Hustler Fund that is meant to
and use it for the hospital.
And use it for the hospital.
You know, Linda, the engineer is talking about, and we have not met before. It's the first time we're meeting here on the panel. I felt a bit upset. The engineer is talking about the Philippines. I was the consultant and coordinator for the social accountability audit under World Bank, currently in the Auditor General's office, run by a guy called Cholera. I was a consultant for that. I actually went to meet the Auditor General himself of the Republic of the Philippines. The Philippines has the most participatory audit model in the world, including also South Africa, and that's what we're trying to build up towards, where when you do the audit of funds from the exchequer, you actually don't just look at reports kind of like how we do here. You go on the ground in Nyeri, you look at the audit and you say, there's money here that was spent on a bridge. Where is the bridge?
Exactly.
You take your smartphone, you do geolocation, you take a picture and pin the location and attach that to the report so that you have evidence when you're doing audit. Not the kind of things you do here, you do, I don't know, things in the air. Eurobond, $65 billion. You're not really clear how it's come, where it's going, etc. So for me, I don't speak here. This is a broadcast. I'm not here to posture. I'm not here to campaign. I'm here, perhaps one of the mistakes that I do is to be very in touch with the ground. I was fueling somewhere in Machakos County yesterday, and you know fuel is 176 shillings, something like that per liter. And you know the attendant was telling me, unajua boss, huku chini tunaumia. And that's a fact. Because this fuel was just about 90-something shillings the other day. And there is no correspondent growth in income that can support this. Remember, we're talking about fuel because it is a driver of production. Fuel and diesel drives even cost of electricity.
Everything.
And that is manufacturing, right? So for me, I'm not out of order when I'm saying that these prices are, in fact, I've told the president through many channels, they had reduced 1 shilling and another one. It's not enough. That I have to explain that to an elected member is offensive to me. I mean, because we know that the fiscal pressure is real, that because I had to prepare now to do my notes. Kenyans are struggling with school fees.
That's true.
We've had a situation where the minister, often the Magoha who has just left, says, if a kid has not paid school fees in public schools, usifukuze. Kids are
being chased out.
I can tell you that even in my area, I return 1 or 2 or the much that I can. I do, it's a fact. I cannot say, I cannot help you because waziri alisema msifukuze. They actually do send, that is one. We've talked about no jobs. And I want to talk about this in the context of Mheshimiwa here, Mheshimiwa Thuku is actually a Mau Mau child. We did not fight for independence for a country where there are no jobs. This is something very unique, especially only to Kenya, where no matter what you do, graduates, I've met graduates even work in the bank. You're a bank teller for 27,000 a month. They tell you, when they see you around, they say, you know, Mheshimiwa, let me be your driver. We cannot justify an economy that does not create jobs. So that's another crisis. And to say, you know, I ask myself, why should someone be roasting maize or boiling maize and putting in a paper bag in a door in 21st century? So I'm the leader that wants to transform that. As to how exactly we can do it, that's another story. But for me to kind of feel that it's okay, you know, that is not acceptable. We talked about cost of doing business and compare with, for example, the interest rate regime. So we talked about minimum wage. Let's talk about even the UK, where we borrowed a lot of our everything from our former UK colony. Interest rates of 4%. Interest rates of 3%. Check today when you live here. Interest rates of, can you imagine what it takes to do a business at a rate of 18%. By the way, one of the first things the president did when he came in was go to try and curtail the interest rate in Fuliza and whatnot. Some of these is even a daily rate. We talked about that the last time I was here.
Yeah.
A friend of mine is doing some financing thing model from Texas, and then he realized that the 9% that they are talking about is 9% a month. So that in a year, how much is, it's 100% a year. So that's what I'm saying, that is not acceptable. The cost of doing business being so high is also a driver of poverty. And before I come to my last point, we must not sound that like we're in defense of poverty. You know, that it is glamorous to make 500 shillings a day. That it is very okay and very... John Chigiti, a friend of mine who's a lawyer, a very prominent lawyer, lives in Kilelesha. He's a lawyer who does a lot of PIL, public interest litigation. And I talk a lot of philosophical things and politics with people every day, Linda, as we wrap up. And you know, John was telling me how one of the days a few years ago, his 12-year-old daughter, you know, you monitor your kids in the evening. So he's checking on the kids' homework, and they had agreed on the work, and so he goes to check what she's doing, and he finds her standing at the window in the evening around 8 p.m. It's such a good story. So he asks her, hey, my dear, what's happening? You're not here. Why are you not at your desk? And then she's at the window, and she's very sad. Then she says, Dad, you know, kids are very innocent. Yeah. So outside their home in Kileleshwa, which is very common. Down there.
Yes.
There are some young kids, the homeless, who have put up a bonfire, you know, just to get some warmth. They are totally homeless. So she was telling the dad, you know, I feel sad that there are those kids. How come they are outside? Because even now she's not allowed to be outside at night, all right? And the dad, who is a lawyer, told her something. You know, honey, it's very interesting that you see those kids because the leaders don't see. And as we have this discussion, I can for sure see that we don't even see the homeless. We don't see the extremely needy. I've just seen, and you can check online, there's a new bill that was passed in New York just yesterday, mandating the state to intervene on someone who is homeless and has mental issues, because usually they're just in the rain. You hear people saying, kichwa yake liruka, you are on stress. But what do, you who is consuming public money, to bring about interventions? Or did your forefathers fight for independence for you to say, you know, wengi wanapata 500?
Can we close it at that,
That is not what we fought for independence, Mheshimiwa.
Can we close it? Can we close it?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Linda, I need to make a point there.
30 seconds?
Yes. That whole narrative by my brother Beji justifies the Hustlers Fund.
Okay.
Because, and you see the way he points it out, you know, Beji is very eloquent, and I like his eloquence. I like his clarity of thought. But you see now where I was faulting him, and it has come out so well. Now, let him, those narratives he is giving, now he should connect them with the Hustlers kitty.
So we wait to see where it ends, and then we say it justifies the means.
No. The thing is this, Linda, this will work because, you know, those kind of children we are talking about, they come about because their parents most probably have no one to support them in their day-to-day hustle. Now, here is a president who leads a whole government in targeting purposely and deliberately the people down there living on very meager income. And that is why we are saying this Hustlers kitty. For example, about 5 million small-scale traders, people who cook chapatis, they boil that maize there. It's not a good thing, we agree. But what do? We have to be practical. And you see, you realize, like when the president was in South Korea, he came back, he told us, you know, I've realized at one point we were supporting Korea, but Korea has grown. So we have in place a government that is concentrating on now telling Kenyans, look, this is where we are. Because you know, Linda, one of the best ways of not developing is not accepting where you are. So our government is saying, fine, you have elected us as Kenyans. We have found we are in this hole. We are starting measures to come out of this hole. And there is no better way, Linda, than equipping people down there.
Okay.
Linda, you know, when we talk of 200 shillings, you know, unga, oil. Mtu ananunua hiyo unga Linda, anapika mandazi, anapika chapati, inampatia faida. Analipa zile pesa, na wakati analipa zile pesa, there is some money that is being saved for that person.
500 bob.
Even out of that,
you know, imagine right now,
imagine Linda,
approximately
imagine
200 bob. Mafuta lita moja.
I even did
approximately 400 bob.
You know, you use
makaa mkebe moja that cannot cook.
But the thing is this, kama vitu hizo viko kwa bei ya juu namna hiyo, si unaona tumefanya vizuri, at least umemuongezea kitu ya kununua hizo vitu.
In closing,
let us close. Allow us to close this matter.
Tulilala njaa sana jana, but we don't say loudly because of aibu.
Yes,
that's the reality. These MPs don't want to talk
and about. And you know what I was told the other day? I went to Kajiado just for to speak. I went to Kajiado, and this leader was telling me, you see, the reason why Maasais do not sleep hungry as such is because hawana aibu. Yes, they will come and knock at your door and say nipatie, but the aibu is real. I cannot tell Benji. I cannot tell Benji I slept.
No, but we don't tell anyone.
In closing, Linda.
Yes.
You know, the reason slavery went on for too long is because
they were comfortable.
The then slaves were okay with being fed and being sheltered. We cannot embrace such a concept in this modern society. We have to be visionary and also be very careful of what we call distorted public goods. A government will provide public goods for its own political expediency at the time, but not for the growth of the country. We have to be very careful and balance these things. Hustler Nation is here and it is real. But my friend, my brother, we also have to be realistic on how and where we want this country to go. We have been in a bad situation. We are good now, but we can be better.
I need your phone number.
That's what I want.
Can you give the phone number?
Yes, I'll give it.
Please write it down.
But we have to agree Hasrafad is a very good thing.
I want to close it this way.
Yeah.
We must remove ourselves from what we call misplaced perceptions.
Yes.
One of the misperceptions we have here is what is poverty.
Yes.
What is being rich? A Maasai man living in a cow dung house with 1,000 herds of cattle is not poor.
Yeah.
But why should they live in a cow dung house?
So how we perceive poverty, how we perceive happiness, how we perceive good life is what we need to define.
Yes.
In Kenya, we don't have our definition. This man has spent a lot of time in the US. His perception of poverty is on the optics of the
But is it not what they keep saying? And I'm not in defense of what it is that Benji is saying.
I've had the opportunity to visit India, visit the Philippines, visit the Middle East, the Europe and the US and Africa, and I have seen poverty of various kinds. And therefore, I have come to the understanding that we need to define what is poor for us, what is good for us, what is happiness for us. Our per capita income in Kenya is around $5,000. That of China is $19,000. That of America is $70,000. China is a bigger economy than America. But their per capita income is less. What does that tell you? $15 per hour is not the definition of richness. 500 shillings is not the definition of poverty. We need to define what is poor for you so that you can also aspire for your richness. We as a country, we don't understand what we are worth. Being a person spending 1,000 shillings in Nairobi is the same 200 shillings being spent in Nakuru or 100 shillings spent in Kisumu. That is the kind of disparity of incomes we have. But all of them are comfortable. So we need to be able to understand at what level do we define
at a general level that we are operating under like 1 trillion budget. Before you know it, it's 2 trillion.
An income in Nairobi.
Thank you.
An income in Nairobi. An income in Nairobi can provide poverty, yet the same income in Nakuru will provide richness.
Exactly.
That's where we are.
Linda,
gentlemen,
the reason I don't want the engineer's number,
we are saying the same thing.
is because I have just said it here very clearly with incontrovertible evidence. You can look at Kipra reports, the Kenya Institute of Public Policy Research Analysis. You can look at their reports. You can look at Auditor General reports. You can look at many reports across the board. And this is a mathematician, a qualified engineer. I've just explained showing here that a lot of families are not able to meet their daily needs. If you look at proper macro and economic analysis reports, even on calorie intake, you have a lot of families in Kenya that are not able to afford a proper square meal for their children. We have a problem with affording school fees for public. That's what I'm saying. You cannot therefore now justify poverty when someone is clearly showing you, and that's why we have all these bursaries and what have you, that people cannot pay school fees, that they cannot
But why should we have bursaries?
One second, please.
And that is what Councillor Kite is fueling.
One second. Even for middle class families
supporting us
that have a car, have a house, etc., you are only one disease away from abject poverty because healthcare is so expensive.
You're supporting our point.
And that's why I'm saying, we cannot sit here in good conscience to defend poverty.
We are not.
To glorify.
We are not. We are supporting what we are saying, Beji.
We have to close that.
Define our poverty.
Exactly. We are just defining. And Linda,
beer is expensive in Kilimani,
it is not in the other side.
It is not.
And if he spends 400 shillings for a beer, somebody in
what would it take to strike a balance? What would it take for us to,
he is justifying what we are saying. And Linda,
to be continued.
And there is something I don't want to be lost.
Good quality public education, public health. Then you are okay.
Yes, and Linda, there is something I don't want to be lost. Because we can talk here, but there are some good things we also need to discuss so that, because Beji has proved to be supporting us anyway. Now, I'm happy.
We want prosperity.
Yes, that's what we want, and we are happy. The courts have thrown out those cases that were stopping the vetting of the...
And that is where we are headed.
Yes.
In fact, that was my next point.
Yes, now, Linda, because, now we want, if it is like the PS energy, I like giving real life cases. In my ward, we have a place called Karuthi Catholic Parish. We have Karuthi Secondary School. Children are doing their end of the year exams, and we have not had electricity for almost a month. I've made a lot of noise. You know me, I make noise for my people. That one, unapologetically. Those are my,
You'd have told me and I would have asked and you'd have got it.
No, I will.
Offline.
Now, even yesterday.
You want his number? You want his number? You have
his number.
He does. But you see, what we want to say is this. There are some people who still think we are in the old way of doing things. That power came back yesterday for 2 hours, it disappeared.
I'll assist you on that, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you very much.
Can we consider that sorted and talk about now?
Yes, so we are happy. And you see now our courts are now catching up with good governance. Because you see, like we say, one good turn deserves another. And one good thing creates a ripple effect. You see our courts were, leaning under,
You think the courts are doing right so far?
They are.
No, but there's a problem with the justice system. That's another
one. They are.
Big.
Because look at the withdrawal of even murder cases. I mean, like the top court.
And I mean, that is one of the things that's making headlines.
But you see, Linda, look, we will come to you.
It's all right,
let me finish.
Yes. Make it brief, Mahesh.
Yeah, the problem was this. We had politicized almost everything. As long as you are singing the Jubilee song, you could get away with anything.
But you see, we are getting away from that, yes.
People are coming back and saying, look, we may not have evidence to prosecute this case. There came in political interference. We were told, like the case of the deputy president, I kept saying it here.
Withdrawn. Case of top court.
It's true.
Aisha Juma's case as late as yesterday.
I don't even want to discuss the merits or demerits. I don't even want to zero in on a particular case.
Yes.
But the issue is this, Linda.
Yes.
We are back on track. The president has pronounced himself very clearly. The government organs do their work. And he has even gone an extra step and said even chiefs and their assistants, members of the provincial administration, they will not be available even to the UDA politicians themselves to do political work. Let them go to the work they have been employed to do. So I believe we are going well, leader.
I am happy with the direction we are taking with our judicial system. Because for too long a time, we have wanted to have judicial independence, but the previous regime would not let that happen. So I'm aware of other bigger cases, not necessarily in the manner of politicians and the other people, but normal civilians whose justice has been delayed. And justice delayed is justice denied.
Yeah.
So it is about time we have conclusion on these matters. If there is sufficient evidence, if the DCI has enough evidence, prosecute. If not, let the person go free. Because again, we have to be very careful not to squander and tarnish people's names.
Yes.
And also, families continue to suffer. Every person who dies comes from a family unit. Whether a politician or a casual laborer, they come from a family unit. And there is grief and mourning. But the moment you delay and prolong prosecution of these cases, you hold these people hostage. And also, it's also expensive. So we have to be very careful and let the judicial independence carry on. I'm very happy with what the president has done. He said he's going to institutionalize all these organs of government. And he's providing a budget for the judicial system. So I'm happy with that, and I'm really excited to see how it goes. I would want to see conclusion of other issues that we cannot necessarily mention here on air, but I'm looking forward that by maybe June or end of next year, the judicial system will have a clean slate.
A backlog of cases, most of the times they come on board and tell you that we're going to clear all this. Withdraw is justified?
Well, for me, the unfortunate thing is that as much as they're withdrawing all these cases, the man who prosecuted them was also in that other regime. Haji was part of the administration that processed, and yet he's the one now coming and saying, I didn't have evidence. At least for the DCI, we have seen Kenoti go. So for Haji, Haji is not coming to court with the clean hands because he was part of the prosecution. He's now saying, I'm withdrawing because I didn't have evidence. It's quite unfortunate. But the other thing, I've just received a message from a Kenyan who says the hustler fund is a good thing, but also the responsibility has now moved from government to the hustlers themselves. How they will spend this money is very important. And therefore, the members of parliament, the MCAs, the leaders who are part of this promise, they need to really speak about the sense of responsibility that this money should be handled with, so that it doesn't find itself being misused for things that will not bring value. So it's important that the Kenyan people, if you don't have a business opportunity, don't borrow this money. If you have a business opportunity, first interrogate it before you start borrowing and using it for the wrong way. Be very careful, be very conscious, be very responsible in how you borrow and use this money, because at the end of the day, it can put you in a very dangerous position.
There's no better way than that, of course, to close that matter. Benji, in a minute or so, as we sum it up.
I don't really have much. I think we've said a lot of what needs to be said. I'm very impressed with the young man, Josephat, the philosophical mind. I really do very much appreciate that. In less than 2 weeks, we celebrate the 59th birthday of the independence of our country. 59 years is not a kid, is not a baby. We can do better. We are trying to do better. We must do better. We must hold leaders to account. Different arms of government, the judiciary is trying, but we are not there yet. There's still justice being hawked to, the highest bidder and what have you. The fact that there's even this perception that if you're a small person, if you don't have resources, justice is elusive. That in itself is not acceptable, and we must get out of this culture of kind of self-hate, where things that are mediocre are okay because it's Kenya, because we are black, because we are Africans. We also must aspire, and the World Cup is the best example of this. You find that Africans, we are featuring hardly anywhere in the World Cup, but when it comes to looting and corruption and diverting projects and all manner of ghost workers, and then we top the list. But you cannot even qualify to something like World Cup, whereas countries like Philippines, like you're saying, Argentina, etc., are showcasing talent, executing set pieces at a very high speed, scoring. You saw the game with Poland last night, etc. We must, Mheshimiwa, I must see your bill on how to improve sports. We were even banned until just the day before yesterday by FIFA. This is not acceptable. We must aspire for better. We must do better, because next year is our 60th, and at our 60th, I don't want to be sitting here having a discussion on why it's okay to earn 5 shillings a month in Kenya. which is what the engineer was trying to push us into, but we refuse. So asanteni, thanks for all who have watched. God bless you. Thanks for hosting us, Linda. I know it's a lot. You see,
it's a pleasure, and I'm happy.
You have umpired
in my own spatial space. I have, you see.
So
but yes, in all this special space, and perhaps to just say thank you. You know, sometimes we forget to say thank you to the station.
Yes,
exactly.
We get a chance.
Thanks to Stevie for having us.
We are very grateful.
Yeah.
Even Beji himself, we are grateful.
And we are
you know, he has come here like the opposition now.
But I'm supporting the fund.
It's greatness in diversity. That's all over.
That's true.
Yes.
So I'll shake your hand.
Please take the number.
Oh
no, I want just fun.
By the way, for avoidance of doubt, Beji is a great guy. But you see now, like with me, the school I went to for secondary education,
and he's
you know me, I went to Moshelage Girls, and you see it was a big school, but Beji is St. Mary's. No, but you see.